All right, new stuff. So, what is orofacial myofunctional therapy? I will tell you guys as I start to go through these slides, I'm throwing a lot of the same stuff back at you. The reason that I'm doing that because I just felt like, oh my gosh, there's this verbiage and this verbiage and this verbiage. What I want you guys to do is see a whole bunch of different things so you can decide what resonates with you. What are your words? I mean, you're going to come up with your own description. But a lot of these big wordy descriptions, I certainly don't use regularly. So myo comes from the Greek word muscle, and myofunctional or orofacial myofunctional therapy is like physical therapy for the mouth and face muscles. It's an individualized program of static and dynamic strength and pattern retraining exercises of the tongue and orofacial muscles intended to correct maladaptive oral habits and help restore correct oral resting posture. Who is ever going to say that to anybody? Nobody, not even me. This therapy does go by several different names: orofacial myology, myofunctional therapy, orofacial myofunctional therapy. It is completed by therapists like us who are trained to treat disorders of the face, mouth, and neck muscles. We use neuromuscular exercises to retrain these muscles and teach them how to function properly. You're probably going to be using the words a lot, saying, improve function, have the muscles work correctly. I'm teaching, there's a lot of stuff that I teach you guys just because I have to. But we don't use a lot of these terms. We don't use, like, when you explain things to your patients, it's going to be a little bit different. So the one thing that you might notice is that we often call it orofacial myofunctional therapy. This is totally a mouthful. But if you were to Google OMT, you are going to learn about osteopathic manipulation therapy instead of what we do. So also, if we simply used the phrase myofunctional therapy, it means muscle function therapy. And since you guys, we have 600 muscles that are broken down into skeletal, smooth, and cardiac, seems like we could be a little bit more specific. So we work on the muscle function of the orofacial muscles. Those muscles, there's 20 of them, and these are in the cheeks, chin, ears, eyebrows, eyelids, forehead, lips, nose, nostrils. Myofunctional therapy, I think it is most commonly called that. So it works to bring awareness to areas of concern and then help teach the client how to properly use those muscles, implement new habits, and retrain those patterns. For the sake of this training, I'm going to call it myo or OMT. But just like when I'm creating social media material or when I'm talking, I was on a podcast yesterday and she just kept talking about myo or OMT, and you kept hearing me say orofacial myofunctional therapy, because the first thing that they're going to go Google and be like, what the hell does osteopathic have to do with this? And so I will use the slang just to make it easier here. Again, on this particular slide, where I think these are the words that I just normally use, like I'm helping the client reprogram. I'm helping them to retrain those patterns, those behaviors, those muscle patterns, that kind of stuff. Okay, so here's my shtick. This is what I say when I'm at the post office, that it's like physical therapy for mouth and face muscles. I work with clients who have snoring and sleep apnea concerns, speech problems, mouth breathing, digestive problems, crooked teeth from swallowing wrong, and tongue ties. So it's interesting that I word it that way because we more have crooked teeth from breathing wrong than from swallowing wrong. But I say that, I use those verbs or those words because I'm going to get somebody when I'm talking with them. Somebody's going to say, oh, well, I do that. So my thought has always been, how can they not ask me a question? And this, when you speak like this, whatever your intro is, it gives you the opportunity to manipulate the conversation. And normally we look at manipulate as a bad thing, But I always want you guys to manipulate the conversation in a way that's going to bring it around for you to be able to talk about this. So when I say that, hey, this is what I do. I work with people who have, so I have that assortment of issues: snoring, sleep apnea. It can be low energy, low, weight gain, so many different things. Somebody's going to grab that carrot. So I want you guys to get good at dangling that carrot. It gives you the opportunity to practice. It gives you the opportunity to educate, and also to give potentially life-saving advice. You guys, it's a small world. It seems like a big world, but if you're talking all the time about what you see, the class you're taking, all of this stuff, somebody's going to talk. And I used to have somebody, people call the office all the time to say, hey, my daughter was in the other day and your hygienist talked to her about snoring. I snore. And she came home and said, hey, Dad, there's a concern. So always dangling that carrot. Another great way, and we'll probably talk about a little bit about this in the next week when we're talking about getting that free assessment. But when I was still in hygiene, I dangled that carrot all the time. Like, oh, hey, are you doing anything fun for this summer? Yeah, I'm doing A, B, and C. So then, of course, they would ask me, right? Well, what are you doing for the summer? Oh my God, I am knee deep in this advanced course I'm taking for orofacial myofunctional therapy. And then I would just get into it. So I used to call it raping their ears because I would just talk. And I don't mean it in a creepy way, but you have a captive audience when you've got somebody in hygiene. And so just doing that, they have no idea that you just took that conversation exactly where you wanted to take it. So that's what I mean by manipulating it. I don't mean scaring them off. There's a difference. And so wherever you can get that conversation going is going to be helpful. Also, if somebody had, sometimes people would come right into the operatory and they would know that it was a day for x-rays. And so they would just constantly be like, oh my God, I hate x-rays. I always gag. Conversation starter, because gagging is very common when we see a tongue tie, and also with tongue weakness. And so that was a great opportunity for me to look in there. Oh, hey, well, I'm in this new course and here's what I'm learning. Do you mind if I take a look? So I encourage you guys to seize every opportunity. So SEO generally stands for search engine optimization. So we want that to optimize, so when somebody Googles, they're going to find your website. But I want you to practice SEO also. Seize every opportunity to talk, because you never know when Sally's going to be talking with Susie at the soccer game and they're going to they're going to share information. Okay, so what are we doing again? Who wants to tell me? What are we doing? No bravery yet. So let me go back. Your shtick. So get your shtick. So if somebody asks me what I'm doing, I'm going to say it's like physical therapy for mouth and face muscles. In fact, yesterday on the podcast, she misquoted and she said, so the biggest reason that people will do myofunctional therapy is to change the shape of their face. And I was like, oh, where shall I start? Because actually that would be the last thing. Yes, that's what I told her. I said, in kids, yes. But adults, that's not going to be the thing that we're going to be going after because their head is already developed. Okay, here's some more information. Again, I'm giving this to you guys to pick through. We're teaching new habits, new neuromuscular connections, and neurological re-education. All right, let's talk about the future, because this is the stuff that you guys are really excited about, and I'm excited about. But I got to go back to the other window. By raise of hands, who sees OMDs everywhere? You guys are like, well, wait, we don't know what OMDs are yet, but we're learning about it today. But yes, so we see it everywhere, okay? So go walk around the mall, go watch kids walk to the school. You're seeing it in the operatory. This is a big thing. I always just say have an abundance mindset, not a lack mindset. There is going to be plenty to go around. So who can do it? So myofunctional therapy is in the scope of practice for dental hygienists, speech therapists, and dentists. Some occupational, some OTs are doing it. Some physical therapists are doing it. I even had an osteopathic doctor contact me about it who is doing it. So some medical practitioners certainly can probably find it in their scope of practice. I don't think that everybody's doing it like we are by any means. They're certainly not doing comprehensive rehabilitation, which is only what I offer. And that's what I will encourage you guys to only offer. And what that means is, no, I don't do it per session because I only help you do the whole process, the whole shebang. But this is also becoming a problem. So the reason I say here is it's important that we protect the industry and steer clear of training programs that train just anybody, because they're happening. They're out there. Massage therapists are getting trained. They have no business doing it. I know that the MyoMentor program has trained some other, like not a physical therapist. She was a personal trainer, those type of things. So that's getting real scary. And the reason it's concerning, should be concerning to all of us, you guys, is because we don't want to delegitimize the industry. It's been around a long time. It's gaining traction. Some people think we practice witchcraft, and that's okay. They'll eventually get smart. But these programs that are training, I know of another program that trained an acupuncturist. They just don't have the background. So that is really important, that we support programs that only do it correctly. Now, myofunctional therapy is not for infants. So you have to have volitional control of the muscles. Volitional means voluntary. They must be old enough to comprehend, comply, and cooperate. You're going to want to remember those 3 C's because you're going to say it a lot. An IBCLC, which is an international board certified lactation consultant, will help with things like suck training and latching. OTs and SLPs will help with other things like oral motor training and feeding. We also won't spend a lot of time on toddlers because there's really no great reason to be doing therapy with a toddler. The volitional control is questionable. They're too young to do myofunctional therapy, and they're too old generally for it to be a nursing issue. With that said, you're going to get a lot of questions, and we'll kind of just touch on some stuff later on when we get into working with kids, but you're going to get a lot of questions from parents asking about myo on kiddos. And there are people out there that say that they're doing myofunctional therapy with infants, and it's not true myofunctional therapy because they don't have volitional control. All right. What are the 3 C's? Anybody remember them? Say it. Somebody say it.
Compliance,
Comply, cooperate,
and comprehend. Yeah, that's the last one.
Yes.